Congress taking quick action, approving a $13 billion deal to help Ukraine.
School districts across our area tell us they're seeing significant increases in children that are homeless.
I'm announcing another $800 million to further augment Ukraine's
homeless population has increased by more than 40% over the past 3 years.
The U.S. have announced new military assistance for Ukraine. They've promised an extra $713 million.
A revealing look at homelessness among the middle class.
The Senate overwhelmingly passing a new $40 billion Ukraine aid bill.
We are learning the homeless problem we are seeing in Knoxville is growing at an alarming rate.
The U.S. is sending an additional $700 million in military aid to Ukraine.
The CEO of the Coalition for the Homeless of Central Florida tells me this is a scary trend.
The U.S. is sending an additional $1 billion in weapons and aid to Ukraine.
Housing and urban development data shows homelessness among the elderly is rising.
Pentagon announcing today it's sending a new $450 million military package to Ukraine.
Tonight, we are going in depth on the issue of homelessness, of course, a growing problem here in Colorado.
The U.S. sending an additional $400 million in military aid to Ukrainian forces.
Rising housing costs and inflation are leading to more people living on the street.
The United States is sending another $1 billion in military aid to Ukraine.
Advocates say the homeless crisis continues to grow at an alarming rate.
A new aid package is going to be announced tomorrow, including an additional $3 billion to train and equip Ukrainian forces to fight for years to come.
The plight for homeless or displaced families is growing tonight.
The White House now asking Congress for more than $13 billion in additional military aid.
69,000. That's how many people are homeless across LA County.
Well, the Biden administration preparing to send another $600 million military package to Ukraine.
The number of people experiencing homelessness continues to grow in Maricopa County.
And the U.S. is sending another round of military aid for Ukraine. Included in the $1.1 billion package are 18 HIMARS launchers.
Sacramento's homeless population had a jump of 67%.
The United States has announced a new military aid package for Ukraine worth $725 million.
There's a stark warning from city officials tonight as they're seeing a record number of families out on the streets.
$275 million to meet Ukraine's critical security and defense needs.
Phoenix has the highest inflation rate of any major city in the country. Housing prices are up 17% from the previous year. And you can see the fallout of that just right behind me here.
The department is announcing approximately $400 million in additional security assistance for Ukraine.
The number of people counted who are experiencing homelessness increased 30%. The White House is also asking for $37.7 billion to fund the war in Ukraine.
There's a new wave of seniors experiencing homelessness. It's being called the Silver Tsunami.
Washington was sending a $275 million aid package to Ukraine.
About 172,000 homeless people live in California. The state had the largest rate of increase in its homeless population in the country.
The bill includes a major boost for military spending, also nearly $45 billion in aid to Ukraine.
Homeless advocates in Palm Beach County are overwhelmed with helping more and more new homeless families.
The United States will demonstrate our continued enduring commitment to Ukraine's ability to defend itself with the announcement of over $3 billion in new military assistance to Ukraine.
We begin tonight with a worsening homeless problem in downtown San Diego. The latest in a series of new reports finds that the number of people living on the streets reached a record high last month.
The meeting comes as the U.S. unveils a $2.5 billion military assistance package for Ukraine.
The signs of our homelessness crisis in San Diego are everywhere, and it only looks to be getting worse.
The United States has announced new military aid package for Ukraine. The package worth $2.2 billion US.
Local health officials say the number of homeless people who died that year is the largest on record.
His meeting with President Zelensky short but significant, with the United States providing another $500 million in military aid.
New data presented at today's Amarillo City Council meeting shows an increase in Amarillo's homeless population.
Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen announced Washington will provide another $10 billion in assistance to Kyiv.
I want to talk about Jefferson County, which has seen twice as many people experiencing homelessness for the first time, and the homeless population is growing faster than the county can find space.
The United States announced a new military aid package for Ukraine worth $400 million.
Well, Grand Junction's houseless population is on the rise.
The authorization was the 34th drawdown of equipment from DoD inventories for Ukraine since August 2021,
and is valued at up to $350 million.
An organization that works with the homeless says it's seeing an increase in unsheltered people here in Huntsville.
The U.S. is providing even more aid at a key moment, approving another multi-billion-dollar package to Ukraine.
Each year, the city of Lexington conducts a survey to determine the number of homeless people living in the area.
The results are in from this year's count back in January, and sadly, we're seeing a spike.
As Kyiv prepares new units of border guards, the White House has announced a new $325 million package.
First up tonight, Spokane's homeless population continues to grow.
The U.S. is set to announce a $1.2 billion aid package to Ukraine.
Homelessness in Riverside County is rising at an alarming rate.
An accounting error at the Pentagon overvalued U.S. aid sent to Ukraine by $3 billion. The error could result in the U.S. sending more weapons to help in the war against Russia.
The increase in the number of homeless and planning for housing were top of mind during the meeting. The recent point-in-time count showed over 1,600 adults and kids without a place to live in Central Oregon, a 28% increase from last year.
Well, today, President Biden is expected to announce a new $375 million military aid package for Ukraine.
We're also working for you in Missoula tonight, following up on a staggering number of homeless encampments popping up in the area.
The U.S. announced that it will send another $300 million worth of military aid to Kyiv.
New numbers just out tonight show a growing homeless population in Palm Beach County.
The Biden administration has announced its new $2.1 billion military aid package.
The newest numbers just released here in Whatcom County show 1,059 homeless people. That's a new record. A startling number of them senior citizens.
The U.S. has announced another $325 million in military aid for Ukraine.
Well, homelessness is on the rise across America. According to the Department of Housing and Urban Development, more than 580,000 people experienced homelessness.
The Pentagon says that they overvalued the military aid sent to Ukraine by more than $6 billion, which basically says this means they can send more.
The number of homeless people on the streets and in shelters across the U.S. increased significantly this year.
The Pentagon has just announced $500 million in additional security aid for Ukraine.
And now to the homeless crisis in L.A. County. There's no way to say it other than we're going the wrong way.
Now, this latest aid package, $800 million.
The number of people experiencing homelessness is growing across our area.
Today, I am pleased to announce an additional $250 million in new funding for Agri-Ukraine.
The face of homelessness is changing. New research shows the number of people 65 and older experiencing homelessness will triple by 2030.
The Department of Defense announced a new security assistance package to support the people of Ukraine.
There are a lot of compounding factors which have led to the rise in homelessness.
You're literally looking at folks who could be anywhere from their mid-60s to, in the past 6 months, we've had ladies in here who were in their 90s.
In fact, a recent survey found 1/4 of all homeless people in Collier County were senior citizens.
Today, I also would like to announce that the United States will provide more than $500 million.
Adams County saw its unsheltered and sheltered homeless populations double in this year's count.
The key thing today is that we've learned that the Americans are giving another $400 million worth of military aid.
From 2022 to 23, the homeless population increased by 52%.
President Biden is asking Congress for $24 billion in defense aid for Ukraine.
A disturbing analysis on homelessness in the U.S. coming from the Wall Street Journal. After reviewing data from around the country, the Journal says that there has been a record increase in the unhoused population this year.
The United States is giving Ukraine an additional $325 million in military aid.
Nationally, homelessness has risen to over 500,000 people.
The president defending his expected Friday request to Congress, an unprecedented estimated $105 billion. $60 billion is said to be slated for the fight against Russia.
Recent figures show that more than 75,000 people are living on the streets in L.A. County. That's a rise of 9% since 2022.
The president asking for $14 billion for Israel.
As we found out through one family, multiple factors play into this increase of homeless students.
The U.S. is sending a $425 million assistance package to Ukraine.
We're outside Life Path Christian Ministries on West Market Street in York, and it has been seeing a 10% increase a month in the numbers of homelessness.
The president did announce a $200 million
aid package during President Zelensky's visit yesterday.
According to new federal data, a record number of people are now unhoused.
Today, the White House announced plans to provide up to $250 million in additional military aid to Ukraine.
This jump in homelessness may be caused by mental health issues and rising rent.
On behalf of President Biden, I'm announcing an emergency package of security assistance of $300 million worth of weapons and equipment to address some of Ukraine's pressing needs.
Homelessness in Transylvania County continues to rise, with this year's point-in-time count showing a 64% increase in those experiencing homelessness.
The House passed a $95 billion foreign aid bill for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan.
The Sunshine State seems like the perfect place to spend your golden years until it isn't. Locally, we are seeing an increased amount of seniors battling homelessness.
U.S. officials announced hundreds of millions of dollars worth of weapons for Ukraine today.
2024's point-in-time count for those experiencing homelessness on Oahu increased by 11.6%.
We will provide an additional $2 billion in foreign military financing for Ukraine.
In Oakland, their unhoused population is on the rise.
A new development in America's relationship with Israel. Two sources tell CBS News this, that President Biden plans to send the country another $1 billion in military aid.
Welcome back. The spike in San Diego's homeless population is being felt particularly strong in the North County.
The Biden administration is expected to announce an additional $275 million in military aid for Ukraine.
Our top story here in San Antonio. Homelessness crept up in the last year, with more than 3,000 people reporting being unhoused.
President Biden pledging an additional $225 million weapons package for Ukraine.
Now to a significant increase in people experiencing homelessness in Chicago. According to the city, a one-night snapshot shows the number of unhoused people has tripled year over year.
Vice President Kamala Harris attending the Ukraine Peace Summit in Switzerland today, announcing $1.5 billion in aid to Ukraine. The number of people living unhoused here in Clark County right now at a 10-year high.
The United States is sending more money to Ukraine. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin says the U.S. will be giving them $2.3 billion worth of military aid.
The homeless population in Roanoke is growing.
The United States has announced a new $1.7 billion worth of military aid for Ukraine.
Seniors are the fastest growing segment of the homeless population, both nationwide and right here in South Florida. Elderly adults are particularly affected by this. They are dying homeless at an alarming rate.
The United States will send an additional $3.5 billion to Israel.
A Clark County report released this week shows our local homeless population, it is rising.
It's actually the highest we've seen in a decade.
The U.S. is planning to announce the first of multiple military aid packages for Ukraine today. It totals $375 million and includes an undisclosed number of cluster bombs, rockets, and artillery.
Well, the city of Lexington has seen a 24% increase in the number of people experiencing homelessness.
The president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, has thanked Joe Biden and the U.S. Congress for a new military aid package, which is worth more than $8 billion.
Let's start on the streets of South Florida and the homeless situation in our community. It is estimated that close to 6,000 people are homeless in Broward and Miami-Dade counties.
Israel's defense ministry confirms receiving an $8.7 billion aid package from the U.S.
Just last month, the county releasing numbers from their point in time, their homeless count census, with really a startling increase to those who are experiencing homelessness all across the valley.
Since then, the United States has provided $17.9 billion in military aid to Israel.
The number of Travis County residents under the age of 25 without permanent housing has nearly quadrupled since 2020.
He's announced a new $425 million military aid package to Ukraine.
New reporting from Homeward, Iowa shows homelessness in the metro is on the rise.
President Biden's administration is working to expedite the final $6 billion in Ukraine military aid before President-elect Donald Trump takes office.
Well, a new report tonight revealing a sobering insight into the number of homeless students in New York City. 1 in every 8 students is experiencing homelessness this academic year. It's a whopping 23% increase from the previous year.
More help is on the way for Ukraine. The Biden administration today announcing a new $275 million military aid package for the country.
The city of Beaumont reports 439 homeless people live in the city right now. That is double the the amount from last year.
The U.S. will send an additional $725 million in military aid to Ukraine.
The state reports nearly 5,000 Connecticut residents are currently living without a home, and that's a 14% increase from 2022.
Out of Ukraine, where the country will get nearly $1 billion in additional aid from the U.S. in a last push to help the country before the Trump administration comes in.
And this was the latest change by LifePath to accommodate a growing number of homeless people. It is seeing more people come into the shelter than ever before.
While the United States announced a new $500 million package of military aid for Ukraine.
New tonight, the federal government reports that there has been a double-digit jump in American homelessness compared to last year, and an even bigger jump among families.
The U.S. is sending nearly $6 billion in additional military and budget aid to Ukraine.
In 2024, Massachusetts, for example, saw a nearly 75% increase in family homelessness, and Rhode Island is also seeing concerning numbers.
With less than 2 weeks left in office, the Biden administration is announcing its final shipment of weapons for Ukraine. The administration believes nearly all of this $500 million worth of weapons will arrive before the inauguration of Donald Trump.
Right here in New York, about 158,000 are experiencing homelessness. That's a 53% increase.
The Trump administration is sending Israel another round of military aid. Secretary of State Marco Rubio used emergency authority to expedite delivery of about $4 billion of weapons and ammunition.